I want to start briefly. We have one change in our agenda that I want to make everyone know about. Nicole Friedman, as many of you may know, has left the city, and she has a replacement to take over for her. They weren't ready to come tonight, and they told me after this agenda went out. So I figured I would just announce it here. So we're not doing the North Washington bike lane safety study part of this. But because we have some time open and because the issue has come up, we are going to add at the end of the voting section, not a vote, but rather a discussion, which we're going to do in a little different way. We're going to have a discussion on the Parcel 9 issue. And we'll get into that when we come to it. But it seems appropriate. It was supposed to be that we have a little time to do that. So we'll get there when we get there. I also want to mention in the President's report, Nicole Leo from the city wasn't able to be here. Her mother had to be rushed to the hospital, and she's waiting for her mom to get a room to be admitted. So she called me up apologetic, and I said, don't apologize. We are feeling for you, and we're sending light and good wishes and love to your mother. I hope that they get to the hospital quickly, and I hope it's nothing. But Nicole did want to ask me, she did want everyone to be reminded that Boston Shines is coming up on May 9th, and everyone who likes to do the Boston Shine stuff, remember that you can sign up online at the City of Boston.gov website. So that announcement was something that she really was anxious about, so I wanted to get it out there. I also want to make sure that everyone knows that on the NEWRA website, there are two enhancements that had started before, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone is fully aware of them. First is for DLC issues, when we talk about, we have great presentations like this one that we're going to see. We're now asking all petitioners to give us electronic copies, and we put them up, and they're all accessible to all of you guys. So if you want to load the files and take a look at them and see the diagrams and see the letters of refusal and all that stuff, for those of you who are so inclined, I know Victor's on that site every day. You guys can get access to that. There's also the opportunity for abutters, if they have information, to put it up on that site as well. And we only have two file folders, neither of which are being talked about tonight, that have abutter information. But I want to say that it's a two-way street. These are folders where we can have a discussion, continue even outside the ZLC meeting and then this meeting. So that's a resource available to everyone. The second thing is that also on the ZLC page, there's now an interactive liquor licensing map that covers the whole city. And if you click on the liquor license, you'll see dots, and they're various icons that depend on the seating size of the restaurant. If you click on it, it'll bring up a little preso on the restaurant, any specific notes they have, as well as a picture of the restaurant. If Google Street View has the picture right, often it's just a picture of the back of a delivery truck, so the technology's not fully worked out. But for the most part, it's useful. And if you are, it's helpful if you want to check out a liquor license, or if you want to go to a bar in Dorchester and you want to check it out before you go. It's very interesting and useful. So I'm going to end the President's report there. I'm going to ask membership, Parks and Open Spaces, and ZLC to submit their reports next. So Mary.
I just want to remind anybody who's a member who hasn't checked in when you came in, make sure you check in with me so I can make sure you get your residence marked down. And there's still some people who haven't renewed, so don't forget it's time to renew if you haven't done that. And we actually have a couple of new members tonight, so welcome to the new members.
That's right. Welcome to the new members.
Oh, and left out one more detail, and that is that Board items of you would announce that we have gotten our 501c3 status, so that now donations that are made to NEWRA are tax deductible. But one thing that we haven't done yet is figured out how to get the receipts, because we're launching a cash business here. So figure out how we can do that.
One of the reasons I haven't announced it is because the IRS database is so backed up that I don't want to tell people we're a 501c3, which we are, which we have the letter. We actually got it in February. And they told me, you'll be in the database in March. We're not. They said, well, April for sure, and it's the first Monday of April that they switch it on, so I'm waiting, or the second Monday, but whatever next Monday is. So we'll see if they get it, and then I'll, but it's true. We're a 501c3, so your $10 is tax deductible. I'm sure that's going to be a big swing in everyone's tax bill. But what's exciting is if you want to say join for more than $10, join for $10 and make a contribution for, I don't know, 10,000, it's tax deductible, and then now we're talking big savings. So remember, the more you give, the more you get to deduct.
Just to follow up on that we actually have a number of members who, when they've renewed, have given significant donations, and that's much appreciated, and we make sure that we get a receipt for this tax year.
Right, and again, new tax deductibility, that's always a good thing. And we'll have more on that. I'll let you guys know in the next meeting, you know, that where our status is there. The database status is important because even though we have a letter, you know, sometimes people say, well, I checked and they're not a 501c3, so I didn't want to get ahead of ourselves. But it is very exciting. You'll hear more about that because it means our Parks Committee, which is, I'll let Robyn talk about, you know, is looking at some parks that really need some TLC, like the Prado, or Paul Revere Mall, as everyone else calls it. And we will be able to fundraise to help that, because the Parks Department has basically said they can't do it themselves. So, and Chris Cook, the commissioner, shared with us last time that he likes things like Friends of Christopher Columbus Park because, quote unquote, those guys bring their own money. So that's yeah. One thing I forgot to do before I go over to Parks and Open Spaces is I wanted to ask any of our political representatives who are in the room to please identify themselves and say hi. So I guess I'll start with Kathy back there.
Kathy Franchel,
Hi, Patrick Lyons, State Representative Aaron Mikewitz's office. I just want to thank anyone that was able to make it out to the event on Tuesday. We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Maria Lanza, Boston City Councilor at Large, Michael Flaherty's office.
Fantastic. And
Alkia Paul, UMass Boston, Office of Community Relations and Government Affairs.
fantastic, welcome. If that's it, I'm going to swing it over to Robyn for Parks and Open Spaces.
Three announcements. One from the Greenway. You might have noticed that the Greenway has started their construction on renovating the boxwood beds. That's started, and that will continue for a number of weeks. There needs to be settling and disruption, and there will be construction all around the parcels in the north end. They did give a good presentation about the plans in February, and that has started. They are going to be replacing the benches during this time as well. They're going to be putting those porch swings that we've talked about, and they're going to be replacing the lights in the Freedom Trail. So a lot of work all over the northern parcels on the Greenway. The next piece of information is about our Parks and Open Spaces meetings. Those are the first Tuesday of every month. The next meeting will be on May 7th. Anyone that's interested in reviving and restoring and renewing and cleaning up the open spaces that we have in the north end, you're welcome to come. We started with looking at different parks every month, but we kind of got stuck on the Prado because there's so much to do. So we're going to be discussing that for probably a number of months. And we could use anyone and everyone's help with that project. It's going to be a big project. We're sending a letter to Chris Cook, the Parks Commissioner, giving him an assessment of all the things that we think the Prado will need to bring it up to good condition for residents and visitors to use. So if you're interested in helping out with that cause, please attend our meetings at the Mariners House at 7 p.m. on the first Tuesday of every month. And the last bit of information is from the Friends of Christopher Columbus Park. They have invited a Rose historian and Rose expert to speak at the North End Library on April 25th at noon. It's open to everyone. He's a very engaging speaker. He talks about the history of roses, and he's going to do an assessment of the rose garden in the Christopher Columbus Park. So if anyone would like to attend that talk, you're welcome to come to that as well. Thank you.
And before we go to ZLC, I want to throw it to Dave Goggins, who has some RUFF Park-related announcements.
Yes, thank you for it. On behalf of the North End Dog Group, otherwise known as RUFF, I wanted to make a few quick announcements. This Saturday, April 11th, from 10:30 to noon, we're going to be holding our annual RUFF Spring Cleanup. We'll be meeting at Prado because we couldn't wait for Boston Shines, which isn't until next month. There are some dire needs to be addressed in terms of some of the local playgrounds and parks that have gotten quite sloppy over the winter. We're going to try to do our best to put some spin and polish on that. So anyone who's interested would like to come out. There'll be a fun event, I'm sure. Next week is RUFF's monthly meeting on Tuesday right here at 7 p.m. At the Nazaro Center. It'll be the final update on our plans. We'll be hearing from the contractor and the city officials on the opening of our new dog park next month, which will be May 1st. On Friday, May 1st, we're going to have a little informal event for the neighborhood residents. You don't have to own a dog to come. Everyone's welcome. There'll be some food and refreshments to commemorate the opening of the North End Dog Recreation Space is the official name of what are going to be a pilot project of a 3-month period for the gassy flights in Deep Boulevard. We're going to convert the lower level and middle level of those flights into dog space area. They'll be gated and locked at night, and there'll be some amenities for the pooches to play with at that location. It's undergoing a fix-up right now in terms of a cleaning and gates being installed and some other things to make it look good and welcoming for everyone in the neighborhood, not just dog owners. So if you can't make the meeting next Tuesday, please put May 1st in your calendar Friday night and stop by the park and check it out. That's it.
Great. Thank you very much. That's interesting stuff. And it's too bad it's not North End recreational dog space, because then we'd be nerds.
Oh. It'll be a point of
Speaking of which,
Second one.
it's an honor term, I think.
I'll read something out for you.
Believe me, I've heard it already.
But first, a question of Dave Goggins. May 1st, will there be food for humans or just for dogs?
There'll be pizzas for most humans, and I'm sure a few dogs will sink their teeth in some pizza crust as well, but no. Treats for everyone, dogs and humans alike.
This is the ZLC report, ZLC standing for Zoning, Licensing, and Construction Committee. Our meetings are on the 4th Tuesday of the month. The meeting we had on March 24th had 3 items on the agenda: 20 Unity Court, which is on this agenda, so I don't need to say anything about it. Speaking of saying things about things, it is very clear to me that I've been speaking too long in the past, in the last 2 meetings. Although everyone has been very kind not to complain, but I know that it's been happening. So this is going to be quick. The second item was 47 Charter Street on that ZLC meeting, and it is indeed on tonight's NEWRA meeting for a vote. The third and final one was 3 to 5 Quincy Court, and I remember saying that I don't know where Quincy Court is, even though I've been in the North End for several years. It's to the left of Ricardo's restaurant. As you look at the restaurant, it's a little alley, and the building is around in the back. It was on the agenda. The 2 owners, I think it was a real estate trust, but anyway, the 2 principals, or 2 of the principals, were at the meeting and requested to defer it to the next meeting, which will be April 28th, because their attorney and their architect were not available. So then, for the April 28th ZLC meeting, 3 to 5 Quincy Court will be on the agenda. A couple of more items of information about it. It has been abandoned and sealed up for several years. Currently 6 units. They want to make 2 upper units, duplex units. This would still be below the 55-foot height limit for North End. And they stated at March 24th, add 2 private roof decks. I understand that that has been changed, and that as a result of the comments at the ZLC meeting made by abutters, they are removing the request to add 2 roof decks. The second item on the ZLC agenda to come is 290 North Street, which is La Capella, which was once a chapel, and then became a single-family residence and B&B. They will seek to change from single-family residence plus B&B to 6 residential units and expand in the basement, and that will be on April 28th CLC agenda. And finally, 406 to 418 Commercial Street, a change from commercial space to residential. The change would end up with 9 residential units, and I have to disclose that I have not walked down Commercial Street since I received this, and I don't know where that is. But anyway, where is it? Next to the gas station. Okay.
In between the Coast Guard base and the Fairmont, across the street.
Across the street. Thank you. Finally, what we have done in the past year regarding zoning licensing and construction matters, we have, since our April 11th, 2013 meeting, we've written 20 letters, 7 in support, 6 of no objection, 3 in opposition. 1 was a split vote, well, 2 votes, 1 supporting part and the other opposing part. And then there were 3 letters which did not involve votes. So 20 letters written. 2 quick updates. 16 to 18 Battery Street, which was on the December 16th agenda, which brought the Airbnb issue to the forefront because one of the abutters had taken a photograph inside the door which said, checkout time is 10:30. It's not a hotel. It's not a B&B. It's not a suite like Rico Suites. What is it? Well, when it came up before the Zoning Board of Appeals, it was deferred to May 5th. So for those who are interested in the short-term rental issues and how they affect the North End, May 5th at 11:30 on the 8th floor of City Hall, 16 to 18 Battery Street will be presented to the Board of Appeal. The final item I want to update on is 319 Hanover Street, the former Pomodoro, now to be Scopa. It was on the February 24th ZLC agenda. It was not put on a NEWRA agenda for vote because of the policy of NEWRA not to present to the members for vote an application that hasn't been filed yet. And that application had not been filed, and it has not yet been filed. The reason is that sometimes as thinking goes on, or as comments from the neighborhood are heard, applications change. And so we only want to have before the members for vote an application that has indeed been filed, and that's why this one hasn't been brought before you.
Right, great.
Yes.
No, that's terrific. I do want to reinforce that. That's you know, because some people have said, how come it is that the 2 groups, NUDIC and NEWRA, sometimes don't vote on the same things? There are slightly different policies that govern, and we feel very strongly because we've been stuck. And we're not saying that everyone's doing it. We're certainly not saying that any of the folks that Victor just mentioned are doing it. But we've had people who say they're going to do something in an application, and then you actually read the application, it's totally different. So we want to actually see the application before we vote. We think it's good, prudent management. And Pomodoro may be a while until because they have the issue of there's a liquor license occupying that space now that needs to be moved out before they can apply, and there's no way for it to go. There's one location it could go to, but they could lose it if they bring it there. So, you know, I feel badly for the lawyers because they have a lot to deal with on that particular issue. But, you know, we haven't voted on it yet. I did want to add one thing too, and the 2 of the properties that Victor mentioned, one is the Quincy Court and the other is 16 to 18 Battery. Those are the 2 files where you'll see the abutters' comments. The 16 to 18 Battery one is really interesting because you see some of the exhibits that Victor has mentioned, the sort of the checkout time and other sort of things. There's actually some research that was done that I didn't post because it goes into unusual detail about all public knowledge, but still some detail about the ownership structure and all that, more information than people need. The first thing that's posted there is very good and very useful to illustrate what Victor said. And the other one was the butter of the abutters to 35 Quincy. And I just want to say one reason. Sometimes new residents come in and they say, we don't understand how the North End works. Well, why do you guys have 2 meetings? And the whole reason we do the ZLC is because if it becomes a flashpoint, like there's something that's really wrong, the petitioners have the opportunity to make a change. And that was one of the instances where that happened, and they've already made a change in withdrawing the rooftop decks. And we think that probably they would have just come here if we didn't have the ZLC, and they would have gotten a vote that was, probably not to anyone's liking. So we like the opportunity to have that discussion, and we also like the opportunity to allow any of the abutters to put stuff up. So thank you for your report. Yes?
I can stick with a quick comment.
Sure.
I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that the Airbnb on Battery Street that has been discussed, at the hearing at the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services came in and actually supported that application. And I think we really need to be asking the city, why would you support an application like that which was put in by, when I say absentee landlords, I mean, one of them I think lives in Arizona, one lives in California, one lives in Florida, against the interests of residents who live there and are occupying their property. Really, I would like to know the answer to that question, and I think we need to start asking the city to explain why they give support to these kinds of applications.
Good comment. I think it's useful for everyone in this room to make sure that the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services is reflecting what the neighborhoods say, reflecting what NEWRA and NUNIC vote. And there's been sort of a growing disconnection there, and hopefully we'll get everything aligned again. But I think this is a good example, because when I asked the question of ONS, Office of Neighborhood Services, don't you know it's an Airbnb? And they told me, we know that it's an Airbnb, even though they are trying not to be now. But we think it's irrelevant. And I said, really? It's irrelevant? And they said, yes, it's not our concern. And I thought, well, sort of what is your concern? So we need to make sure that communications with those parts of the Mayor's office is better. And I just want to say, in a friendly way to all our government officials, please help us in that cause, because we want to make sure that the voice of everyone in this room somehow gets all the way over to the decision makers in City Hall, rather than attenuated out when it hits ONS and just gets thrown in the garbage can. And I think that's happened on a couple of times, that Phil and I have seen, and we don't want too much more of that. I don't want to speak for Phil, but maybe you want to say a couple words about that if you want to, or you can pass. Okay, good.
If I could just say one thing, a quick plug for the ZLC committee. I believe the agenda for the ZLC is on the website every month, right? So I would encourage the membership to take a look at the website and see what's coming up on the ZLC each month. You don't have to be in a butter to show up and listen to the presentations at the committee, and it's a good way to stay informed about what's going on in the neighborhood. So.
Also on northendwaterfront.com.
Okay, great.
Great.